Assalamu alaikum. This is Mohammad Toosy, and with me is Rizwana Nawal. And I would like to actually have a discussion on integration of change and project management. Rizwana is doing some really interesting work, and she is researching the integration of change and project management, and currently doing a doctorate in business administration. She has a lot of experience of working in different consulting organizations in the Middle East, in UK. Hi, Rizwana, how are you?
Walaikum salam, Mohammad. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. So, could you actually tell us about yourself, please?
Yeah, certainly. Mohammad's done a good introduction. Basically, my name is Rizwana Narvel, and I have over 18 years of professional experience. I'm currently doing my doctorate degree, and my thesis is basically the integration of project management and change management to increase the success rate of projects. I am a management consultant, so I have years of consulting experience, and it's pretty diverse. But right now, my focus is project management and change management. Yep.
Okay.
From a personal perspective, just quickly, I am of Indian origin, born and brought up in Zambia, Kuwait, and Canada, and right now I currently reside in Saudi.
Thank you for giving us time. And Rizwana, could you actually define project management and what change management is? Could you actually just shed some light on whatever you've learned over the years?
Yes, it's very important to understand, first of all, what a project is. A project is basically something that is temporary, something that will create a, a product or a deliverable at the end of it. And it has a finish, a start and a finish. So even planning a birthday party is actually a project. Now, project management is basically the approach that you use to make that project a success. All right. And people use different approaches depending on what the project is. So in a nutshell, if you understand what a project is, project management is basically the approach that people use to finalize or complete a project from beginning to end.
Okay.
Change management. Change, if you look at the word change in Google, you'll get so many different definitions. Really, even in literature, they've not agreed to the definition of change management. But change management has evolved. Initially, it was more of a psychological thing. It was all about, people changing, understanding people's psychology. But now it has been taken into a broader perspective, such as organizational change, right? And change is something that takes you from where you are now into the future state. So it takes you from your current state to your future state. From an organization's perspective, change is where a company would move from, again, wherever it is now to a desired future state. So if they're making a change in a process, for example, simple process reengineering, it's all about where they're now and what the impact of that process reengineering is going to have on the organization in the future.
Okay, nice. So could you actually shed some light on your research in which you talk about the integration? How would that integrate and what it's all about? Because that for me, it's something new. It's something new to actually see both actually getting integrated together or someone talking about that. When I have researched, but I haven't researched that area yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, basically, we have to understand the history of project management. It has evolved. If you really think about project management, they've been constructing pyramids back, prior to the 1900s, and that required project management, but it wasn't formalized at that time. So if you think about project management, it's been there for years and years and years. But over time, what has happened, it has gone from more technical, more of a, let's get this done. Are we on time? Are we within budget? Are we within the scope? It has now moved and evolved into something that is more of focusing on strategic initiatives, ensuring that business objectives are met. And that is what project management has become. There are lots and lots, I shouldn't say lots and lots, but from my research, I have found that projects are still not successful, despite of the evolution, okay, despite of PMI and other bodies that are talking about, project management needs to focus on leadership and strategic and business outcomes over and above the technical aspect, projects fail. Even change initiatives are failing. And the question is why? Right? And so there's lots of literature on projects are failing. Okay, that's fine. But now the question is, why exactly are they failing? What are the different factors? And yes, there are several factors. What I focus on is change management. The whole aspect of change management, if you integrate that with your project management approach, whatever it might be, will increase the success rate of your project. And there's lots of research that has been done by ProSci, for example, that has been done by the PMI that shows that the utilization of change management practices will impact your project success rate. So what's happening now is that there's more emphasis on integrating change management with project management. Now, when we talk about, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Rosanna, how would you actually, how would you define failure?
Yes, that's a very good question. And the other question is, how do you define success?
Well, yes, failure and success.
Yes. Until now, most companies still focus on the triple constraint. If you meet your project has been, if you meet the time, cost, and quality scope elements of your project, it has succeeded. However, if there is no usage, if there is low rate of adoption, if people are resisting the adoption of your project, whatever it might be, that will result in failure.
Okay, so that's what about, that's engagement. That's basically engagement.
Exactly. So you need to get people engaged from the very, very beginning or the onset of your project. There are lots of factors in terms of change management that you would need to look at in order to make your project successful. But one of the main reasons for project failure is, other than, maybe it does not meet the specifications, maybe it's just not really good product or end result, the main reason for a failure is users. They don't accept the product, they don't use the product, they do not understand the product, maybe it's very complicated. At the end of the day, they're the ones who are using it.
So, okay. Isn't that actually what we call about engagement, what change management is all about?
So there are critical elements of change management. And again, change management is taking an individual from the current state into the future state. So if you give them a product, okay, or if we're busy using, let's take cell phones, for example. We used to use the Nokia phones long time ago, right? And it wasn't a smartphone at that time, and people were happily using it. However, now we're onto smartphones. Now, this is a change that some people adopted, but this is also a forced change. You had to move from using the old Nokia analog phone or to using a smartphone. Everybody uses Facebook at the moment, right? It didn't exist before, but there is a process of adoption, and you've got individuals to change their mindset, to look at things differently. And that is what change is about. You have to get people to understand what's in it for you in order for them to really adopt whatever is available out there or what it is that you're offering.
Okay, so to me, that's actually what we do that's what we do in change management anyways. But yeah, so what do you mean by integration? When we say integration of change management and project management, what do you actually mean about that? And is there any particular literature which has already been published about this? I mean, I'm
there's
sure
lots
you
of literature.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yes, there's lots of literature on the integration of change management and project management. Hornstein, for example, has published a lot. Pollock, for example, has published a lot. You also have Cotter that talks about change management, and people have utilized that. Yeah. And
the integration of project management. Cotter talks about the integration. Okay.
Yes. You won't find it exactly in terms of, this is how you need to integrate it, okay? But he does have papers that show the impact of change management on project management. Yeah. So there's a lot, it has been recognized that change management is required. The first thing we need to do is we really need to look at what change management is, okay? You need to break it down. So change management, for example, you need your leadership to be involved in this. You need leadership sponsorship. Project management requires sponsorship as well.
Yeah.
They're sponsoring the project. A change sponsor sponsors the change project, okay? In terms of the change activities that need to be linked to the project activities, they need to be integrated. Communication. That is key to change management. Why? Because people need to know what is happening, why it's happening, how is it going to impact them. Now, your project approach, a project management approach, also has a communication plan. But they're looking at two different aspects.
They're looking at it from a different angle. That's
exactly.
Traditionally what project managers do is project managers are more engaged in delivering, and change managers are more engaged in, engaged in creating awareness and actually acceptability. And sometimes there's a tussle between whether it's right time to go live or not.
Yeah, so there is, one is focusing on the technical aspect. Okay, we need to get this working. And the other one's looking at the people aspect. We need to get people to understand all these technicalities. We need people to be comfortable with it, right? And we need people to adopt it and to use it. And we need people to continue to use it. That sustaining bit after the implementation is very critical. Project managers will deliver something. They're done.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the implementation and to ensure the adoption and to ensure that people are happily using it, that's where the change management aspect comes in.
Yeah, that's right. Because with the project manager, once the project's finished, that's it for the project manager. But for the change manager, if you have a separate change manager or someone like that, then for that person, actually, it's post project too. He's actually involved before the project and after the project too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now someone's going to ask, why do change managers have to be involved before the project? Why don't you allow the project manager to do their thing, right? Provide the product at the end, and then the change manager can get involved and make sure that there's user adoption and,
at the end.
At the end, exactly, after the project has been delivered.
Wow, that's actually, is that what you're talking about, integration? I mean, that's really interesting.
Yes.
And I wouldn't actually, the first thing which comes in my mind, I mean, the first reaction. I have actually, by the way, I have studied project management separately and change management separately, both in University of Surrey.
Yeah.
And if we do that, there would be, we would might, and at the same time, there's another concept which is Eric Ries's lean, the lean startup, the startup way, Steve Blank's concept about all these things. If we put the project manager, if the project manager delivers without a change management, and we're not thinking about engagement, we might actually come up with a product or a project which didn't make sense. That's a possibility, because I mean, Eric Ries talks about build, measure, learn. Have you read about Eric Ries? Yeah,
Yes, I
he
have.
talks about build, measure, learn, build,
Yes.
measure, learn cycle, and that is a feedback loop in which the consumer actually becomes part of the product development. So if we actually have a project without any looking at the engagement, that's really interesting, because once what happened, I can actually give you an example of an organization. I won't name the organization. It happened in Pakistan.
Yeah.
The IT department thought about changing and this happened in a telco. They thought about changing the IT system.
Mhm.
One fine day, they changed it. And you know what happened?
Yep.
Within 6 hours, less than 6 hours, that project was shelved. That thing was shelved. They spent, I think, it's more than 15 years ago. I think, if I'm not wrong, they spent $30 million on buying a software which they threw away
Yep.
because of this strategy. And what happened was that the IT did everything in isolation.
Mhm.
One fine day, they gave it to customer service. Customer service had no idea what to do with that project, with that system. And
Yeah.
the whole company actually was on its knees in one way or the other, because whenever someone was trying to call, they couldn't actually serve the customers because they couldn't even understand. They couldn't even understand I would say, what the new system was. So that's one example. That's the only example which comes in. Well, one example which comes in my mind, and the first example which comes in my mind, instantly actually listening to, why not bring the person to adopt it after that? And yeah,
And that's why it's very, very important to get the end user involved from the
yeah,
very beginning. One of
yeah.
the
I
companies
believe
that
that.
I worked for,
I
I
believe that.
can't give you their name, sorry.
No,
They
so
had several systems. So they said, we've got around 15 systems and none of them are integrated. So in order to enhance efficiency, let's just bring in an ERP. So they bring in the ERP and they used the processes that they previously used with all the individual systems. They utilized
yeah,
that.
it would have messed. It would have been a mess.
Exactly. At the end of the day, and so they didn't feel like they needed to involve the users, the end users. Okay. And therefore, the business requirements were not really taken from the users. They said these systems work individually, everyone's using them happily. Let's just take the way we're doing things here and plug it into the ERP. At the end of the day, the ERP had to launch. Why? Because we need to finish on time, right? And it launched as per the due date. There were short trainings that were provided to people saying everything is the same as you did last time, okay, in those previous systems. Only thing is everything's integrated. Here it is, okay, and this is how you need to do it. Short trainings were provided. What happened after that? People did not happily adopt the system.
Yes, they
Exactly.
wouldn't have. But and there's another thing which actually I would like to actually say, and please actually give me your expert view on this. I think that the biggest problem, the biggest mistake which we do in digitalizing is that we try to digitalize systems without trying to understand how the system would be once it's being digitized. And another thing is that we digitize things without even making it better, without making sense. I mean, the worst thing you can do is you can say that I am digitizing the existing process. Because what you're going to do is, if you were doing excellent, you will be doing excellent things faster. And if you were doing something lousy, you would do something lousy faster. That's what digitalization is going to do, because digitalization is just an enabler. And it's really important for me, actually. I think that it's really, really important for people to understand that what the thing is. Everyone has emotions. Every human has emotions. We're not robots. We all have emotions, and we have something to lose. We have something to gain from everything. And if we don't understand things, sometimes there's a natural naysaying thing. The natural reaction is no sometimes, because it's something out of the ordinary, unless you're an early adopter. And the way I look at things is that resistance is a part of the change process anyway. So everyone goes through a cycle.
And that is the key word, resistance, right? Yeah. And when we talk about project managers and change managers, at the moment, yes, they are two separate disciplines. One focuses on the technical side, one focuses on the people side. The most important thing that change managers do is manage resistance. And you will find 1,000 change management approaches out there from a practitioner viewpoint. Most of them are based on Kotter's model. Okay.
Kotter is change leadership. It's not change management.
Well, freeze, unfreeze.
That's Lewin.
Unfreeze, freeze, and
yeah. And that's right.
Yes, that's Lewin. Sorry. Yes, that's Lewin. Right?
Yeah, that's Lewin.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
The fasting is getting to me.
I've actually been studying like hell. I've been creating my own presentations and trainings. That's why, for me, it's very fresh. These words, these names.
I appreciate that. So most of them are based on that. And they focus on one thing, and that is managing resistance. Okay. I actually follow the ADKAR change management process by ProSci. And I am moving into the phase where I'll be doing comparative studies of the different approaches. And one of the things that Ron Lehman has done is he's really put together a very comprehensive document on different change management approaches. Okay, and he was very kind to share that with me. So that should definitely help me with my
inshallah,
research. Yes, inshallah.
Yeah.
When we talk about managing resistance, there are a lot of aspects that need to be taken into consideration. Again, you've got your leadership, you've got sponsorship, communication is the key, stakeholder involvement, stakeholder perception is also very, very important. Let's take COVID-19, for example. Right now, the situation that we're in, it's a huge change for people.
Oh, yes.
We have gone from going to the office to doing everything online. Now, this is a forced change. Some have adopted it very quickly. Some are still trying to adopt it, and some are really struggling with this kind of adoption. Okay.
Actually, Rizwana, it might go political, but I actually think that I think that those nations in which the leader was more connected with the public.
Yes.
People have actually done better over there.
Why?
Because it's all about moral authority. It's all about connectivity. If you look at New Zealand, yes. I think her name is Jarkinda. That female, I think she's done a wonderful job. And maybe because she has that element of humanity, she has that relatively more. Let's put it like that. It's not that the rest don't have that level of humanity. Mm-hmm. And it's the really interesting thing which I've actually been looking at. It's generally the in isolation with a few, the places where they had female leaders at the top, they have somehow done a bit better. And Jarkinda has I would say she's done the best. Whatever I've seen, she's done the best till now. And
it's been shown that women have more empathy,
yeah,
and the fact that a leader is able to connect with their people, it shows that there's a trusted relationship. So when the leader says something, when they question something, when they address something, they're always looking at it from the people perspective. So when it comes to projects and making projects successful, it's very important to look at it from a people's perspective. When we take design thinking, for example, that is very, very human-centric. When they design products, they need to look at people in terms of what is it that they want, what are their preferences. And when you look at something like that, and as a change manager, those are the things you pick up. You start working closely with the project manager from the onset of the project, from the planning stage. Everything else should go smoothly. But in the practical world, not everything goes smoothly because there are other elements that need to be considered.
Okay, I would actually like to ask you, when you talk about integration of both change management and project management, what do you exactly mean?
Integration.
Yeah.
So while the project manager is developing their technical project plan in order to finish their project or to develop a product or whatever it might be, it's very important for the change manager to include change aspects. So for example, at certain milestones of the project, what kind of communication do we need to make? Who are the kind of people we need to involve? Who are our stakeholders? How can we involve them in the process from the beginning? It's all about getting that buy-in into the whole process. What's in it for me? Why should I be bothered? This is where the change manager comes in and integrates their plan, their communication plan, for instance, their stakeholder management plan, for instance, leadership. How do we involve leadership in this? Developing a change agents network, for instance, to get the people from inside involved in this, and to be for those to be the early adopters, as you call them. And they're the ones who would then communicate upwards and downwards. So when we talk about integration, there is no one integration method. But as ProSci puts it, they have a very flexible process. They use ADKAR, ADKAR, okay? Creating awareness. When do we start doing that? When it comes to the entire project plan, how do we increase the desire for people to adopt this project and to really buy into it? Then comes the ability and the knowledge, right? So when does the training start? How do we make sure that we're providing knowledge to people? How do we make sure that we are gauging that they have the ability to do this? These are all done at different stages of the project plan. And then obviously the last bit, which is post-implementation, how do you sustain this? And how do you reduce the resistance? Yes, and keep the flow going.
Yeah, so this is what you mean by integrating it, that have all these things in the project plan. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And this is a bit similar to when I went to England last year, and I did a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I did a refresher of my Black Belt too. So what happened was they had their own indigenous training material, and for every stage of Lean Six Sigma is define, measure, analyze, improve, control most of the time, if it's a normal project. And at the end of every stage, they would do a stakeholder analysis. A change management was actually part of their curriculum, which actually attracted me more. And inshallah, it's going to be part of my Lean Six Sigma curriculum too, because change management is something which you need to do. It needs to go hand by hand. And if you don't do that, inclusive, if you don't have that inclusive approach and just concentrate on what you can see and not concentrating on what you can't see, and not even trying to be aware of what you can't see, then you would actually, it wouldn't sustain. So yes, that's something which is going to be in my thing. So it's more, to me, it sounds at this stage, it sounds more of actually the people who are doing project management realizing that change management is an essential part. It's an essential part, and within the project plan, the change managers part should be integrated in one way or the other instead of having two different plans, or let's say a lot of parts of the change management should be part of the project plan.
Yes, exactly. And the project managers and change managers need to work very closely together.
Yes.
I was on a project as a consultant, a change manager consultant, and it didn't really work out because for the whole transformation of the organization, there was no clear project plan. So I went through the awareness phase in terms of, this is what we're doing, this is how it's going to be, but there weren't key milestones. There wasn't a proper project plan in place, which put me in a difficult situation because as a change manager, how am I supposed to integrate if you don't even have a proper project plan in place? And
so
then
so basically what we need to have a proper project management discipline. We have to have a proper change management discipline and integrate them both so that they're not working in different directions. First of all, you need to have both functions, and you need to have them working in the same direction instead of actually opposite directions. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And this is the situation now. You've got PMOs and you've got CMOs, right? You've got project managers and you have change managers. But the question really is, with all the automation that's happening in terms of project management, there's so many tools out there. Okay, one of the best tools I've used is Workfront, for example. There are lots of free.
Yeah, sorry. One of the Ahmed Abbasi asked a question.
What is it?
Ahmed Abbasi asked a question. What project management software do you prefer? So we can answer that.
Well, it all depends. There's so many out there. It all depends on what it is that you require. Okay, and you've got Clarizen, you've got projectmanager.com. There are lots of free software out there as well. Some people just use Slack, just for communicating tasks and things like that. You also have Microsoft Teams that people use to manage projects because they're not doing large transformational projects. But the one that I really enjoyed using as a fantastic workflow as well is Workfront.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forget where I was going with this. All right. So basically, so there are lots of softwares out there. There are lots of risk assessment tools out there. You can just put your data in there and you can get the information. So project managers, really, your lives are becoming much, much easier, okay, with all these tools that are being made available to you. Yeah. So what is it that you need to focus on? You need to start focusing on meeting business objectives, meeting strategic objectives, and also ensuring that people are involved in the process, that you are able to reduce resistance. So my thing is, going forward, are we going to continue to have these two disciplines of change managers and project managers? Can we train project managers, okay, to learn more about the people side? So whilst they're busy doing their technical project plan, they themselves are able to incorporate the people side of change.
Okay, Rizwana, there's actually a question from Ron. I'm going to display it.
If a change manager says that the organization isn't ready to go live based on business readiness measurement, but the project manager wants to go live, whose decision is it? The project manager usually always wins. I'm sorry to say that, but it's not about whose decision it is. It's all about the business case. So they really need to work together and they need to identify the business case in terms of whether they should go live or not.
Okay. And I remember when I actually studied, the first time I studied change management is, well, I've been involved in project management from the start of my career, one way or the other. But change management, I got exposed to change management in 2006. properly, and I started hearing about change management in 2003. So I was, back in the days, I used to be a member of Chartered Institute of Management. Then when I
Yeah.
left England, to Pakistan, I suspended them. I mean, I'm not a member anymore, but back in the days, I was Chartered Institute of Manager, and I was
Yeah.
And they used to say that change management is back in the days. They used to say that change management is an essential skill which every manager needs to have. Rather, they actually stated, if I'm not wrong, that you're not a manager if you don't have that skill set. What would you say about that?
I'm going to go back to one thing. Okay. Change management is the people side of change. A product brings change. Okay. We've all started using Zoom and Facebook Live. It's my first time on Facebook Live, right? But it's all about the people. You need to make sure that every single person in that organization is able to move from the current state to the future state. It's all about the people. So it doesn't matter whether you're project manager or whatever kind of manager you are.
What title doesn't matter. What the work is the work which matters. It's not the title which matters. It's the work which matters.
Exactly. You need to understand people. There's so many courses out there on, mindfulness and empathy and, a good leader and what competencies they need to have. Why? Why have all these things picked up so much now? Why is there so much focus on all these trainings, executive workshops and how to communicate, and there are all kinds of things. Why is this happening? This has picked up over the past maybe 20 years. Okay. And the reason that's happening is because people have realized that they already knew this, right? But now it's not going to work just telling people what to do. That's not going to work. You really need to understand people, and you need to move them forward with you in the change.
Yes.
You'll always have some people who will resist, and there will always be some people who will never want to move with you. And those are the kind of people who will, over time,
no matter what you do,
might leave the organization. Exactly. They might leave the organization, or you might have to let them go.
Yeah.
But the first choice and the option is taking those people from where they are to where the organization is going. So it doesn't matter whether you're project manager, change manager, or whatever kind of manager. Even engineers these days have to learn empathy. They have to learn how to deal with people.
If the world becomes like that, and I would love to actually work. I'm actually working towards that, for spreading change management, actually awareness, and I would love. I think that there's certain things which everyone needs to understand, regardless of what their background is. I mean, at the end of the day, we're human, and we need to realize that we are dealing with humans. And well, unless you're not dealing with humans and you're just dealing with plants, so that's a different thing. But if you're dealing with humans, that human emotions are going to come in, and we need to think about that. And one way or the other way, there is an impact.
Exactly. So I do something that's called Clarity 4D. It's a profiling tool. And what we do in Clarity 4D is just simple 20 questions. But what that does is that brings out your intrinsic self. So the first step is self-awareness. You need to understand who you are before you can try to understand other people. Okay, and that is a very excellent tool. And we do the coaching as well. And it kind of helps people understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what their communication styles are. And then it allows them to also widen their horizons and listen to how other people perceive them.
Yeah.
Because most of us don't do that. Okay, we're talking just to answer. We're not really hearing people. Okay, and that's why you've got
that's exactly it's a very important thing. We're actually not we're not listening at all. We're just actually just hearing and just responding without even reading the whole thing or taking the context. That's a problem which we have developed. And was it there before us? I don't know. but I have seen the intolerance increasing gradually, and because of the intolerance increasing gradually in the society, intolerance within the way we communicate in organizations too. And it all comes about prejudging. I mean, it all comes about prejudging people and thinking and putting everyone in a box. I mean, that this person is in this box, this person is in that box. Like if I like a particular politician, then I like every bloody thing, forgive my French, what that politician does. It's not that I like a particular thing of that politician. Like, I mean, I praised Jacinda. I don't know much about her life, and I don't know much about her. But that doesn't mean that I actually think that everything which she does in her life is right. But I just think that that particular thing, the particular things which I know about, uh, are very good. So,
Well, things are changing now. We're moving from being bureaucratic organizations. Okay, we're becoming more leaner now.
well,
There was
I
a
wish they
time.
were. I wish they were in Pakistan, and that's what I'm actually trying to. That's one of the movements I'm trying to support, is making Pakistan more productive. But yeah, some organizations, a lot of places are actually, I would say, a lot of companies in the, I mean, some places are 20 years ahead, some places are 30 years ahead, some places are 50 years ahead.
It's
Eventually,
fine. It's
Pakistan
the
would actually learn
people.
that. Yeah,
Eventually, it's the people who will get the organizations to change, because now, even if you look at the millennials, the way they behave, what they like, what they do not like, what they tolerate, what they don't tolerate, it's very different from our parents,
yeah.
the baby boomers. So communication has become very, very, very important. Understanding other people has become very, very important. And if in Pakistan some organizations decide, no, we're going to do things the way we've been always doing it, it's not going to continue to work for them, because the people of Pakistan themselves will want to bring about this change. And
Oh,
that's going
yes.
to happen.
That's
It's
that
going to
change is going to
happen
happen. The
quickly.
pace of change would be different. In some places, the pace of change is faster. Some places it's slower. Some organizations have already realized. I mean, I remember when I went to England, and well, I'm referring England quite a lot. Is that the trainer actually told me 20 years ago the discussion within the organization whether to do Lean Six Sigma or not had been completed. I mean, that question is no longer valid because they're just doing it now. So, I mean, over here in this part of the world, this is still a question whether you should do it or not. I mean, whether you should be lean or not. And maybe I think that maybe COVID-19 and all these things, the beauty which might come out of it is that we might realize that a lot of things which we have been doing was a total wastage, and we didn't need to do that. We people, I hope management realizes the importance of lean and actually understands that now lean and Six Sigma should actually be part of the recovery, post-COVID recovery. And we are going through a change. We are going through a change, and once this is when we're going to be over. When we would reach the new normal, when we will reach the new normal, there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a period of sustainability and recovery. So I hope people actually realize that change management and this Lean Six Sigma is going to be an essential ingredient amongst others.
Exactly. Things are going to change. I mean, one of the articles I was reading, I think it was Tata Consulting Services, they have decided that most of their work is now going to be done from home. It is something that is sustainable. This is something people can do without a problem. Why not continue to do it?
Yes, friend.
Organizations are going
Yeah,
to look at their business models. They are going to innovate their business models, and we should all be prepared for the change that is coming. So instead of resisting it, okay, and feel
oh
like
yeah,
it's suddenly hitting us, we need
yeah,
to be prepared for it from now.
that's right.
And
And
and this
yeah,
change will come. This change will come. Your mindset needs to change as well. Okay. And
yeah,
most importantly, you need to go with the flow, unless it's
yeah,
something that's completely drastically different.
yeah.
How many
Obviously,
of
it's
us
just
right now in this time have realized that we don't really need to go to restaurants every night for dinner? We don't need to order out all the time. We don't need new pairs of shoes and bags and clothes every week. And we don't need to go to the mall all the time. How
Yeah.
many of us have actually realized that? If you really think about it and reflect, we are in
And
our
yeah,
homes. Yeah, I mean, we have curfew in Saudi. From our curfew hours are from 5 p.m. until 9 a.m. the next morning, right?
okay,
And we can go out for grocery shopping, and the malls have opened up now as well, and some bookstores and essential places.
okay.
How many people are out there?
Not many.
Not too
Okay.
many, because
Well,
now people
actually,
are,
yeah.
go on.
One interesting thing which has happened during this COVID-19 changes, and it's going to stay with me. I hope it stays with me, but it's actually, you might actually say I'm actually biasing, but I have reduced from 91 to 82 kilograms.
Okay, wow, Mabruk.
And thank you. And there's two things which triggered this. First of all, I was home and wife said, you're going to actually eat limited. So I get limited food. And whenever I try to get something more, I mean, at least in the initial few weeks, she used to say, oh, why are you going in the kitchen? Why are you opening the fridge and stuff like that? So, I mean, the habit got developed. So my food intake got limited.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I wasn't going out eating that much, obviously, because I can't do it now. And the other thing I started, previously, I was doing walk. Sometimes once in a while, I used to do walk in the park.
Yeah.
But now I have a elliptical at home. I'm doing that. So a combination of exercise and diet control has made me shed a lot of weight. So that, for me, that is a change. That is a change, and that is one of the outputs of this COVID-19 thing.
Yeah,
I
and if you think
mean,
about it, staying at home, you have more time. However,
oh
you need
yes,
discipline. If you're well disciplined and well organized, you should be able to find more time in the day for your personal activities, whether it's just for yourself or with your family. But if you're not organized, you will mix work and personal life
yes,
and then feel overwhelmed. So
yeah,
that's
but
another
yeah,
change.
that's
You
another
need,
change. And what happened to me? What happened to me is I actually started working more. I was already working from home, but I
yeah,
actually, because of COVID-19, I ended up starting working much more and interacting much more, because previously others were in office, I was at home, so I could schedule myself. But now most of the people are at home, and most of the people have more time, and I've started outreaching various thought leaders, various authors of books, and I've had Skype calls with some, and
yeah.
I've been focusing on work too. So okay, it's been 47 minutes. Rizwana,
Okay.
thank you for being here, and thank you for this session. It has been really interesting, and I hope the viewers in Pakistan and abroad, we deliberately did it in English. We could both speak in Urdu, but we deliberately do it in English so that the wider audience could also understand it. And hopefully, most of people in Pakistan who actually study project management and change management would hopefully understand this.
Thank you
Okay,
very much for the
thank you,
opportunity. We
thank
kept it
you.
very basic, you're right.
Yeah,
But if we
right.
didn't want to get into more technical details, we can do that another time.
Yeah. I gotta before we leave, I'm gonna actually show you one. This is Rizwan Mughal. He said, "Really good session." That's one of the comments.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Rizwan.
Okay, and we have till now we have 48 reactions to this feed, and we'll see how many people watched it, and I would be tracking how many people watch it after, because after this is going to be part of my, I mean, at the moment must be showing that Mohammad Ali Toosy is live. Once we finished it, it would show that Mohammad Ali Toosy was live, so that's going to be on my timeline anyways,
Yeah,
and my
and if
timeline is public.
if anybody requires any further information or wants to get deeper into change management or project
Yeah.
management and the integration, we can definitely do that. I'll be
Oh yeah.
happy to answer their questions.
Yeah, and we got Ron liked it.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank
It
you.
would be very basic for Ron, but thanks,
Yeah,
Ron.
obviously, Ron has studied. I mean, Ron's exposure is quite. I mean, it's wonderful. His exposure is wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm ending the broadcast now.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum Assalam. And